Tune in Saturdays at 1 p.m. for the Your Body is Your Pharmacy radio show. Hear from the doctors that were among the first in the U.S. to merge the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and natural medicines with the advances of modern medical science. Listen to pioneer doctors Virender Sodhi, Shailender, and Anju Sodhi to keep up with some of the latest medical advances and learn from some of the true leaders of Ayurvedic medicines every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. with the Your Body is Your Pharmacy radio show on Desi 1250 a.m. Radio that listens to you.
Hi folks, this is Dr. Virender Sodhi for your popular show, Your Body is a Natural Pharmacy on Desi 1250 AM. And I'm very happy to be in the studio today, and somehow these folks just grabbed me into the studio here, and we tried to do it from the office last time. There was some technical issues, and I tried to not come to the studio because there is a lot of construction going on in downtown, but I'm here in the studio today. So today's topic is very fascinating topic, and fascinating and is sad too, because this disease which I'm going to discuss is called attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or commonly known as ADHD. In my opinion, ADHD is overdiagnosed or underdiagnosed and even misdiagnosed. So you will say, wow, how come full of the spectrum? So you will see that, a lot of those activities, kind of stuff which we label that ADHD, and all of us express some of those traits in us in certain parts of our life. So interestingly, until 2003, only 7.8% people were diagnosed with ADHD, and then 2007 there was an increase up to 9.5%. And in 2011, 11%. And now, according to some statistic, 18% kids are diagnosed with ADHD. So you wondering what's going on? Just from 2003 to 2016, from 7.8 to 18%? Wow. Are we doing something wrong? Is we are overdiagnosing it? Or there is something we're putting everything under that label. And so one of the why this becomes a big issue for a doctor like me, because the treatment is not the fun part. It is the amphetamines, and amphetamines are also street drugs, and those are given to these smaller kids as young as 2 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. And if I have a kid with ADHD kind of symptoms, I will do any other thing before putting them on those kind of drugs. So again, my concern is that if your kid is misbehaving, maybe we could just getting him diagnosed as a ADHD. If your kid is in the school and he is not cooperating, are we labeling him as the ADHD? Or we are not looking at the psyche of that kid. What is going on with that kid? Is it a home environment? Is it the food? Is it he's under depression, or he has a parents who is not very cooperative? Is it single family? Is it a abusive parents? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Does he have coexisting other factors? Does he have allergies? Does he have asthma? Does he have inflammation? So all those factors you need to consider before we even really diagnose ADHD. It's too often we just labeling it, and then the unfortunate part is putting them on the drug. Even according to the medical authorities, the first treatment of line should be behavioral therapy. But most often, the kids are pushed into getting the prescription drug treatment. So that is not that is where I don't agree. I think we should do many other things before we going into the drug treatment. And, I've been practicing for 36 years, and I must have seen hundreds of patients with ADHD kind of symptoms. And I'm very glad to report to you that when the parents followed, and the kids followed the directions, they had remarkable improvements in their symptoms. So I think there exists a way of making these kids happier and healthier without prescribing them those prescription drugs. The ADHD comes with the 3 triad symptoms, which we call them impulsiveness, that he may be fidgety, or has a hard time sitting at a place, or he is not concentrating on a thing. Distractibility, he is in the sitting in the class and his mind will be somewhere else. And hyperactivity. So do you recognize any of these symptoms in you? I recognize, at least in me. And every one of us recognizes some of these symptoms in us. So should we all label ourselves with ADHD? I don't think so. So another interesting part of this ADHD is, like, people who are usually diagnosed with ADHD, these folks are very successful in their lives. They are overachievers, overgetters, and they get things done. But now, what is the problem? Why we are more focused on getting them diagnosed at a younger age? I think there can be 2 things. One thing is the parenting part of it. Second part is the schooling part of it. And there are schools in Massachusetts who actually don't use any drug treatment. They don't want to fail your kid. My father was a principal of school, and then later on he was a superintendent of school. And he was in the school system for 35 years. He used to say that there are no failed kids, is the failed parents and failed teachers. Every one of us are different. We cannot put all of us in the same standards. We cannot put some nuts and bolts and says, okay, squeeze in these nuts and bolts and we are going to be very happier. It doesn't happen that way, folks, because everyone is so different and requirements are different. Our thinking patterns are different. It depends upon a lot of factors. Your parents, I come from an Indian background. So my thought process is very Indian. Now, if you come from a Russian background, your thought process is different. If you come from an Italian background, they're different. And we all have different jokes for different communities, but it's sometimes funny and sometimes real. And so looking at that aspect, there is a broad spectrum of things which you need to understand before we diagnose them with ADHD. And I've been following this subject for many years, and has written on, actually as early in the 1990 on the subject. I actually just pulled up my newsletter, and it's funny that I read that news article after so many years, around almost 20 years later. So wow, that still holds true that what I said 20 years ago. So a lot of things which you have to look into it. The one thing is, there is not a single diagnosis of ADHD. Usually is associated with anxiety, nervousness, sleeplessness. So coming back to the anxiety, do you think that our environment in which we're using this lot of cell phones and computers and video games and all these kids who are addicted to this iPad or addicted to these iPhones or different smartphones has some issue to do with it? I certainly believe it is. There was a study done out of Korea where they found out that 2-year-olds were addicted to iPad. Folks, iPad, 2 years old, was addicted to iPad. So basically, you can see that kind of behavior becomes very eccentric. You're just looking at a small thing. You're not looking at the overall thing. Now you are going to have a behavior which is going to be different than the normal behavior. And if you have any question, you guys can call me at 844-301-1250. Again, the number is 1-844-301-1250. Again, the number is 1-844-301-1250. So what the government of Korea did, they are trying to counsel these kids and parents. Of course, this is a parental defect, because a lot of those kids things which is available in Korea, especially in South Korea, they have 99% use of internet in that country. And so a lot of their gadgets are oriented towards those stuff. And the cribs and all those small kids things come with the iPad, and you touch the iPad, the baby giggles there, it laughs and kicks and creates a lot of different emotions. And now all of a sudden the kids is grabbing that attention from the iPad rather than the parents or from the surroundings. Now who is he's going to listen to? iPad or you? He's not going to be focused on you, because the developmental things are very important. There was one very interesting study published around 30 years ago, and this was on animals, but I think it's very true for the humans too. So they took a litter of mice and then divided those from the same mother into two groups. One group was put into a cage which has horizontal wirings, horizontal lighting, everything in that cage was horizontal. And then they put another litter into a cage which has everything vertical, means the wiring was vertical, the lighting was vertical, everything in that place was vertical. And after 3 months, they took these babies out and they checked them. And interestingly, the horizontal babies were completely blind to vertical, and vertical kids were completely blind to horizontal. Whoa! So if you don't get stimulated overall, Mother Nature is very important for stimulating a lot of different aspects in us. There has been also studies done when the kids play outside, their eyesight get better. The UV light, which we think is the worst thing for us, is really good. That UV light stimulates the full spectrum, the development of your eyes, your muscles of the eyes, and you're seeing different things. And you actually, the body is creating a reaction and action with it, and that is registered in our body as a genetic component. And we know the ADHD has been also been linked to genetic component. And I believe that we have all kinds of genes. In my family, there is a diabetes. My mom, my grandma, my uncles, my aunt. But that doesn't mean I have to get diabetes, because it is on my side what I do, what I put on the plate to get that disease there. If I behave wrongly, if I eat wrongly, if I don't exercise, yes, I'm getting those sluggish genes in me, and that is going to push me out. And yes, I'm candidate for diabetes. And I've made promise to myself, hey, I'm not going to go there, because I've seen the complications in my family. They had a horrible stuff. We loved our mother to death, but we could not help her, because it is an individual response. Everybody has to be responsible for their health. Doctors can't heal. Drugs don't heal. Herbs don't heal. What you heal is your own body. That's why I have this program, Your Body is Your Natural Pharmacy. And we have to provide the tools to help that process. And ADHD is not different. So we're going to take a short break, and you guys can call me at 1-844-301-1250 if you have any questions.
Are you looking for quality Ayurvedic and naturopathic treatments for your chronic issues? We offer a holistic, wholesome approach to living with chronic diseases. Call us at 425-453-8022 for more information.
So, coming back to the ADHD, many years ago, I have a office manager, a very nice girl, and she used to work for me, and she worked for me many years, and she had a 2-year-old boy. And next morning, I see this girl is crying. I said, what happened to you, Larissa? She said, oh my God, my son looks like has ADHD. I said, what's going on? When I ask him to sit in a stool, he doesn't sit. When I ask him to follow my directions, he doesn't follow. So I was, really kind of says, oh, wait a minute. Did you read online, or did you read some article about it? Because just certain behaviors which we see, and we immediately come to the conclusion that ADHD diagnosis, and that's not right. So one of the thing which we need to do before we even diagnose this kid, and I think there are genuine cases. I'm not saying that they're not genuine cases, but there are genuine cases, and which need to be treated with drug too. But I believe there are a lot more people does not need to be treated with the drug treatment, because that's not the best thing for them. Before you even go that route, I will exhaust all other possibilities to help that process. And one of the things which I've seen in my clinic is you look at all the aspects. You look at parental aspects. Is abuse is there? If both parents are working, how much time you are going to devote to your kid? And I see in Bellevue a lot of these IT guys, husband and wife working 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And so now tell me, where is the time for the kid? And the kid is growing up in daycare, and there is not a contact there. I remember many years ago, I think maybe 15 years ago, a family brought me a kid, 5 years old, and was labeled with ADHD. So first of all, I was taking the history, And so I was asking who's the parent of this kid, and so the father was there and mother was there too. He said, he's not my kid. I said, is it a stepson? Or he said, yes, a stepson, but we were married when my wife conceived, having a sex with somebody else. And so, okay. And it says, I have resentment since then because my wife cheated on me. And he has this kid. And so what that father who is holding the grudges in his mind, do you think what kind of psyche he is going to create for the kid? It'll be not very positive. So, okay, so we talked, we said, did you have any counseling done? He said, no. I said, certainly that is the route to go. Now, this is not a fault of that kid that he was born that way, because a kid is innocent. He has no role in this at all. And his role is with the mother or with the, actually in the family. I think both parties are responsible. And then one interesting thing is what I told him that, why don't you create an atmosphere where everything calms down and there is no talk on the dining table. We just smile, we hold hands, and we do prayers and say whatever you want to say. Enjoy the meal and no talk whatsoever. And then at night, before you go to the bed, take a little warm oil, put some lavender oil in it, and still infuse it with the few drops of lavender oil, maybe olive oil, maybe coconut oil, and massage on his head and start whispering rather than talking. Start whispering and maybe light a little candle in there. And so this kid who was not able to sleep whole night, he will go to bed 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. As soon as that hit, this kid was melted down and he slept like a baby. And he said, and actually the father started crying. He said, God, what I did, just touching the baby, holding the baby, made that much difference. So the hugs are free. There is no cost for that. The touch is free. And somehow in our society, the hugs and the touches also get a little wrong directions, and a lot of at workplaces. In our clinic, we have hugs-free clinics. Hugs included clinic. We give hugs because we see a lot of serious patients, a lot of cancer patients, a lot of people who has serious diseases. And one of the things which I give them when they leave that office, especially if they have serious disease, I give them a good, nice hug. And every one of them, I've not seen a one person who said, Dr. Sodhi, how dare you hug me? Every one of them said, thank you. I really enjoyed that, and thank you for that much care. And you can do the same thing to the kid. And instead of going to the medical route, instead of going to some other route, you will see that hug makes a big difference. So just from this little story, can tell you that small modification in your routine can make a big difference. Then what I've seen is that a lot of these kids have the food sensitivities. And so they will have some accompanying symptoms, like they will have allergies, sinus, asthma, skin rashes, constipation. They can't sleep at night, insomnia. Try to see if you not sleep over few days, what will happen to you? You'll be like a zombie. You'll be walking like a machine without the emotions in you. So same thing, if the kid is not able to sleep at night, you are creating a bigger problem for that kid. And so we need to create, kid is a kid. He does not have that understanding that sleep is so important. And especially I'm older now, but all these gadgets, our cell phones and iPads and the computers, we all have these days. And these are actually a problem for us. Any stimulation of that kind, when you see it hits in your eye, the production of melatonin, which is a sleep hormone, shuts down, zero. So now we are stopping the natural process of producing melatonin in you and not going to get the natural sleep. So most of us, we are sleeping very late. We're going to the bed around 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. It's not uncommon for me to see even kids going to bed 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. and that is not very good for them. They need to have 8 hours, 9 hours of good sleep. And my cutoff time is 10 o'clock. Earlier is better. And wake up by 6 o'clock. So you get around 8 hours of sleep. When you get a good quality sleep, your mood's going to be happy. You wake up next morning, you're fresh, and you'll be more attentive. And like whenever I travel, I'm getting a little sleep deprived, and I'm not very attentive. So you can see what's happening to this small kid who is not getting good sleep, and he's going to be anxious because he has a homework, and he is not able to follow what the teacher is saying because, he is sleep deprived. And most of these kids are sleeping or they are yawning in the class. And when you're doing that process, you may not be understanding what the teacher is saying, or you're not following the directions. I remember as a young kid, I think if I were born in this era, which we are right now, I must have been diagnosed with ADHD because I see a lot of these traits in me. And so funny thing is, like when I'm in a book, my mom will call or yell at the top of her voice on my head, and I will not listen to it. It's not that I was not paying attention to her or I was disrespectful for her. I didn't listen because I was so engrossed in the book or I was so engrossed in the work. So it is interesting that we all have those kind of traits. Rather than going deeper into what is causing their symptoms in us, we wanted to have that drug. Yes, it's easy for the teachers to have that kid who's following them around. It's very hard for a teacher who's not following them because they have to do extra work. And it's also, I think, it's also the parents' fault because they put it all on the teacher. So there is not a coordination happening. When my second son, was in his elementary school, and we saw that our son was kind of struggling with the mathematics and English, and he was not doing the best. So we had a little chat at home, and I asked my wife to volunteer for this stuff and go to the school and talk to the teacher if she will be happy to have her as a volunteer. And you know what? That did the trick. Like our kid was so confident, his score just like jumped overnight. Yes, it was extra work for my wife. She is a full-time mom and she also worked full-time. But that couple hours a week of her time made a huge difference in that kid's life. And I think we have a responsibility. If we create a kid, we have to have a full knowledge what we are going to do with that kid, what we are helping that kid to get to the level where he needs to get. And all are different. Not everybody can be doctor. Not everybody can be engineer. Not everybody can be a IT person. Not everybody can be a carpenter. So we all are different. And we have to look at what is that kid is interested in and try to help that process. And I remember as a young kid, when I was in high school, I had a classmate and we were buddies. And I was a good student and he was not a good student because he was always flunked. So his brother actually attached him to me so that I can help him to do the schoolwork. And so we'll work with the school work overnight, and in the morning he will forget it because his attention was not there. He was not interested in that work. And but once I graduated from high school and he graduated from high school, somehow he went into plumbing and started earning money in the first year. It took me around 8 years to learn to earn the money. And he was very happy as a plumber and he was making good money and he was actually considered one of the top most plumber. So I think that was his niche, to be a plumber rather than being in mathematics or doctor and all of the things. So all of us has, we and especially coming from Indian background, I can tell you that a lot of Indian folks, they kind of instruct their kids to do this and this and this, and may not be working well for those kids. So we're going to take a short break here and we'll come back with a lot of stuff on ADHD.
If you or someone you know is diagnosed with cancer and is interested in adjunctive holistic approach, please come and meet our doctors at Ayurvedic and Naturopathic Medical Clinic or call us at 425-453-8022. That's 425-453-8022.
So, folks, back again. And so one other interesting thing which I've seen in ADHD kind of symptom is food sensitivities. With the latest science of epigenetics and neuroplasticity, and the genome, where we realize that our body has around 100 trillion cells. And you know how many bugs we have in the body? We have 1,000 trillion bugs in the body. For every cell, we have 10 bugs. So now you can understand who owns the body, your bugs or you. They are outnumbering you in many different ways. And these bugs are not our enemies. These are our friends. And so they actually help make a lot of neurotransmitters. They help us protect from cancers and help to save us from allergies and many other things which we may not know yet, because this is a very brand new science. And in Ayurvedic medicine, we have said that, hey, if your digestive system is not happy, you're going to have lots of disease. And this is one of them. So basically, the NIH, the National Institute of Health, did a study, and they said, oh, only 5% people were helped with the food sensitivity. I don't like that. I don't believe in that, because in my clinic, when the kids follow the directions, they were remarkably different kids. Even the parents and the students and the teachers, everyone noticed that. So, and when we do the food sensitivity, and again, another thing is, if you go to a allergist, and the testing they do is called the IgE. There are different ways the body can get sensitivities. And IgE is like a immediate kind of reaction. Like if you get a penicillin shot and you get into a anaphylactic shock. And that is IgE. Or you got a wasp on your face or in your body somewhere and you swell up and you actually choking immediately. That's the IgE kind of reaction. But most of the reactions are not IgE oriented. There can be mixed bags. It can be IgG, it can be IgA, it can be autoimmune, it can be antigen antibody, it can be T cell mediated, and maybe more which we don't know yet, because science is evolving. It's not a fixed. So now you can see we may be missing because IgE is only 2%. So when a lot of these folks take their kids to the allergist, and this allergist did a test which is mostly a skin prick test, or they do a blood test, and what you're looking at is a 2%, and you're missing is 98%. So what we do in our clinic, we do a IgG and IgE kind of testing, and we actually open up the spectrum to around 60%. Still 40% is unknown, and I think the science is evolving, but we will be able to find out. And almost every kid who has ADHD has shown sensitivity to many things, but there are 4-5 major components. Dairy product. Again, interesting part of the dairy product is the milk which we're drinking now is not the milk which was originally designed for. We designed this milk. We will say, how we can design the milk? Yes, when I was young, our cow used to milk around 8 to 10 liters of milk a day. Now the same cow is milking 100 liters of milk a day. So now you can see how we designed that. Didn't we design it? We forcefully genetically changed those cows, and the proteins and everything content change. And also different cows has a different kind of protein. So there is interesting studies available that especially the European cows and the American cows has a different kind of protein. And the Asian cow, especially coming from India, has a different kind of protein. And the Asian cow protein is not allergic. I think that's why in Ayurvedic medicine, the milk was considered to be a wonderful medicine. And so some of the countries have taken the advantage. And one of those is Brazil, and another one is New Zealand, and another one is Australia. So they imported these Indian cows, and they are raising these big herds and selling that a hypoallergenic milk. So, you can see there is a business model for that. But what comes to the milk is different. The hormones are there. There is tons of stuff in there which we don't know. A lot of these things perceive and is because the cow is processing that food, which has chemicals, which has pesticide, which is insecticide, and all of those goes through the milk. Now your kid may be overexposed to this chemical. And so that's why one of the things which I suggest and even force for parents to get organic stuff, because organic is less loaded with these kind of chemicals. I think they'll be still loaded because the environment is so toxic right now. We cannot say 100% free, but is way less. So the food sensitivity is a major one, and I've seen a huge difference. And most of the insurance company doesn't cover it. That's another sad part about it. And the parents have to chill out some money, and it's around $320 test, so it's not less expensive. But one thing, after around 28 years in America, I have seen this test to be very true and very effective, because the knowledge is power. When we know something is wrong with you, we can help. If we don't know something is wrong with you, we can't help you. So very important to see at the food sensitivity. And sometimes you may show a response with a different way. So there is also elimination type of allergy testing, which is a long process. You eliminate certain food for a certain time and then introduce other food, then and see how the things up. It can take several months to find out. So that's why I like this test, because you all of a sudden you have a bunch of foods which you can see immediately, and you can start working with that process. The second thing, which another interesting thing, is heavy metals. Guys, there's still heavy metals in our water chain, in our food chain, and the most common was lead previously, and lead is still there. And you'll be surprised that lead has sneaked into. Even yesterday, I had a attorney who is a environmental attorney came to my clinic, and he said, even all these big buildings in downtown Seattle and all over Seattle has old pipings. So the water supply coming from the city is fine, but now these old buildings, because they were designed 100 years ago, they have lead in them, because that's how the joints were sealed. And he was saying, even the Romans knew in 1500th century that the lead is poisonous, and he could not understand why they still were using in the 19th century. So 400 years later, we did not, understood, or we did not knew, or we were stupid enough to put that back into the system. So that is what you can also, so like old buildings, old houses may still have lead lingering in, and certain, especially people are on the well water, they maybe have that leached into in system. Another thing which I see very common is cadmium. And now you can say how the kids can get cadmium. You have heard about that nickel cadmium batteries. And when we dump them, that leaches into your water system. And cadmium is very poisonous for the neurons that makes your thought process. And you can have a bigger problem with that one. Another problem is mercury. And now you can say where the mercury is coming from. Even your LED lights and all those stuff has mercury in it. And which actually, again, when this goes to landfills, is going to leach into the system. And you can see why this fish is getting mercury, where the hell he's getting mercury. This is what we have created with this coal-fired electricity generators and many other things which we have done. And that goes back to the environment. And we are getting a part of the chain too, because we are creating that, we're getting it. So I think this is interesting. It's not a single solution which we can see. And there is a blood test, by the way, does not show heavy metals if you have in a small amount. If you have acute toxicity, yes, the blood test will show you. But the best method is to do a challenge urine test, and there are certain chemicals can be given to stir it off from your system. And once you give that, the urine can be collected and sent to lab, and then you see how much heavy metals are there. And the good thing is there are treatments available, and even natural, like even garlic will take care of a heavy metal. Cilantro will take care of a heavy metal. If you have, once you get diagnosed, you can do a lot of things to help that process. So the another thing which I have seen very common is these kids, they have a very interesting behaviors. They will like one thing and they will not like the other thing. They are kind of on a monotrack. And most of these kids, when they are on monotrack, the parents not liking that monotrack behavior. And that, again, get labeled as ADHD. So I think it's not a simple thing. What you need to look at, need to look at many different aspects. I do testing for heavy metals. I test for the food sensitivity. And I also do the nutrient panels if they are deficient in minerals. And a lot of minerals can have, if you have a deficiency of minerals and vitamins, you can also have problem. Again, I'm not fully satisfied yet that the vitamins which we give from outside, synthetic vitamins, are the answer. But they, in short term, they certainly help these people. And but my main thirst to get these vitamins through your food. So we need to eat a wide variety of foods, green vegetables and stuff, nuts and seeds. That helps that to improve the status of a nutrition evaluation in these people. Okay, we're going to take a short break and we'll come back again and we'll be continue our discussion on ADHD. And if you have any questions, you guys can call me at 1-844-301-1250. This is Dr. Sodhi.
Panchkarma detox treatments are a great way to utilize natural healing mechanisms of the body. Our clinic in Bellevue, Washington offers over 36 years experience in Ayurvedic treatment. Call us for more information about our Panchkarma treatments at 425-453-8022. That's 425-453-8022.
So, the most common treatment prescribed for the ADHD is amphetamines or amphetamine kinds of drugs. There's lots of them: Ritalin, Concerta, Virender, and many others. And there are some also non-amphetamine drugs like clonidine is given, or antidepressants are given for the treatment of ADHD. So let's look at it, what these treatments are doing to these kids. So the main focus here is to improve the dopamine in the brain. And so what the amphetamines do, they actually improve the dopamine. But this treatment is like, if your car has an engine and engine oil is low, so to put the engine oil in the car, instead of putting into that hole where it's needed, we pour the whole gallon of engine oil on the whole engine. And if it's lucky, it may go through that hole. Because different parts of the brain needs different neurotransmitters and make different neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters are also made in your gut. Actually, 90% of neurotransmitters are made in your gut. So if your gut is not very healthy, again, coming back to the same concept of food sensitivity and the good bacteria, the genome in your gut, if you're not able to produce that real thing in your body is going to have a problem with it. So the treatment is, okay, let's pour this guy with amphetamine. We're kicking this dopamine in him. And now certain part of the brain is going to use that dopamine, but not every part needs the dopamine. And they are going to create some rejection for it, kind of create some side effects for it. So that's what is my problem with the allopathic system. Even if you look at the scientists too, a lot of scientists are saying, hey, what we are doing here, this is not a right treatment. And people don't have a ADHD because they have Ritalin deficiency. It's like a heart disease and you have a statin deficiency. No, people don't get statin deficiency, or people don't get Ritalin deficiency and they get ADHD. Because they get ADHD because there is an imbalance of neurotransmitters. So the treatment is kind of very wrong and different. So basically what the dopamine does, it actually helps the attention. It's also for reward. It also helps in arousal. And it also makes us a drug addict too, by the way. And it's also used for Parkinson's disease and ADHD. So you can see the dopamine has a wide spectrum of uses. And when we have seen the studies, and there are studies published on amphetamines, and especially on the street drugs. This is a very funny study. They said, when people use amphetamines from the street, they get Parkinson's disease. But this is not present in the prescription amphetamines. And I said, how is that different? Because amphetamines are going to behave the way it's going to behave in the body. Maybe when people are taking extra doses, but over long term is going to have the same effect. Because we are exhausting that dopamine receptors. Every drug has a receptor, and we're exhausting that poor guy there. And after some time, that receptor is not going to be very effective. It's going to say, okay. And when we give a natural molecule, which the body makes, that has intelligence, and it latches on and latches off the receptors. But synthetic molecule does not have that intelligence. It latches on and latches on and latches on. And the body is trying to push it off. Get off me, get off me. And it's not getting off. So we are going to create a process where the body will get into resistance and also lots of toxic side effects. So there is a very interesting study done in the fruit flies. So the scientist has been trying to understand that what kind of things are going on in ADHD. And the fruit flies are used for this study, and which is a very interesting if you read the whole study, that how they actually trying to find out what the fruit flies behaviors are and what they're trying to mapping their gene behaviors. And what they found out that when the fruit flies were kind of agitated, they got a little hyperactive. And so what they did, they removed that dopamine gene from that one. And when they remove that gene in them, they become very hyperactive. And when they reintroduce that gene in them, they have the symptoms of hyperactivity was gone. And also attached to the hyperactivity is a learning disability. So they found out there are different kind of centers in the brain which does these two different things. Which can be, so you can have a hyperactive kid but good learner. You can have a good learner but hyperactive kid, or you can have a combination of both. So when they did this in the animals, they found out that different centers are stimulated with the gene replacement. So that tells you that if we using that analogy of putting all the dopamine on the brain, trying to just douche the brain, whole brain with the dopamine, and creating a overflux of dopamine, that is going to be not the best analogy for the treatment of ADHD. So basically, the process of the way these neurotransmitters are taking shape with the dopamine stimulating drugs like amphetamines may not be the best solution in my personal opinion. Yes, it has a role. I think there's a spectrum of ADHD. Some people are lightly some symptoms of it, and some people are extreme. So I think maybe some extreme patients need it, but not everybody out there. Even American Medical Association say that behavior therapy is important. So what are the behavior therapy? I think it starts at home. First thing is, parenting. And one of the things which I sometimes jokingly say that if I were the president of the country and looking at the kids, I will have a compulsory education for the parents of parenting, conceiving, because when you're conceiving and you're exposing yourself to different chemicals, you are bound to have difficult pregnancies and you're going to have behavioral issues or maybe more diseases. So very important that the mother and the father are following natural medicine ways. What that mean? Eating healthy, good lifestyle. If you're a smoker, smokers have more cadmium. And now cadmium is we know that cadmium is a cause of hyperactivity, or it can cause cancer, a lot of other things. Alcohol. When we drink alcohol, we're getting low in vitamins, and especially B1, which is a thiamine. And when we have a low in B1 vitamin, there's a lot of things coming in. Also B12 get low. So you can see that parents' health is so important. And then the second part is their relationship. If you're not a cordial relationship between the parent, do you think the kid is going to have a cordial relationship? No way. He's going to be mess because the parents are mess. And I see a lot of these folks in my clinic, and most of them, the parents has been fighting with each other, and they have issues with their relationship, with their workload, or they cannot take extra amount of load because of the kid. They have a kid, but they are not ready for the kid. That creates a negative impact on the kid because these should be very much welcomed. Again, quoting my dad here, my dad has a degree in counseling, and also he was a English major and a history major. And what he will say that every mother should be home up to age 5 of the kid development. And today's, if you try to say that, it's become like oh my God, it's a discriminative. But it's not, because what you're doing is that the kid needs mom more than, I see dad too, but the more mom is more needed. The dad cannot breastfeed that kid, obviously. So 1 year at least, when you have to spend, you have to do that. Yes, you can breastfeed into the breast pumping the milk and feeding with the bottle. Again, you're putting plastic in that poor kid mouth. Plastic has been shown to a lot of changes in the hormones of the babies and even the adults. In the animal studies, when the plastic was exposed to these fish and the frogs, the male behavior turned into female and female behavior turned into male. Whoa! You can see, and we're just looking at the one set of hormones and what is doing to other set of hormones. So I believe there is a lot of disruptors. And another disruptor coming on the same topic is our food chain. Look at, a lot of times, the kids come to us, okay, what is the breakfast? Oh, I eat healthy. So what is the healthy? Oh, I have this granola. Now it's been changed. It's not natural, although considered healthy. Okay, what is next? I have this nice bar from the health food store. Again, this is not a natural food. Loaded with sugar, loaded with chemicals. Try to preserve a bar, make it home, and keep it for 7 days on the shelf. It's going to be all spoiled. You have to put that damn chemical in there to make it preserve in shelf life. That chemical, though all these coloring agents has been banned and chemicals in Europe, America is the only country where we allow GMO and the coloring agents. That's why the Europe doesn't buy American things. Try to sell them things, American-made things. They say, no, sorry. They don't want to buy it. And nobody is looking at that aspect. I think we are at a bigger disaster today with the health crisis. Number one cause of bankruptcy in America right now is a health crisis. And it's not in our neighboring country in Canada. Canada does not have that. And we're just like a few miles away from each other. So what is the difference? Because the health system is different in America and health system is different in the USA. So you can see, and again, I was in Toronto a couple of years ago visiting my friend. And so he said he had a lawn and there was some weeds growing up. And I said, wow, do you have weeds? He said, yeah, because we're not allowed to use Roundup. So wow, our wheat crop is sprayed with the Roundup so that it can dry up and we can harvest in time. And this is a hormone disruptor. It disrupts the hormone. So we can see what we are doing to our food chain, colors, preservatives. So if you want to stay healthy, if you have a kid with ADHD, give them the real food. What is the real food? Which you make at home. Okay? You make some good vegetables, chicken, fish, all those good food is good. But make at home. All those cured meat, the salamis and this and that, all have preservatives, all have chemicals in it. Now your kid is not going to be better. So yes, it's extra work, but if you put some attention to it, you create some 7-day menu line, okay, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you have 21 menus. It's a little work, or clinics like us can help. And now you have a just plan in front of you, and you can shop for 1 week, and you're all done. So there is a way of doing things. When I came to this country, and my wife followed me after 3 years, and the first thing I said, darling, you know how I'm very fanatic about the food, and I want the real food and the really clean food. And she said, no problem. So we created the menu, and sometimes I just laugh at it. You can look at the day in my home and can tell which bean is going to be there or which kind of vegetable is going to be there. Or you can look at the bean and you can say which day is it. Because, we created a 7-day menu. But it's easy, it's convenient. Once in a while, getting off is fine. But if you get off, just think about small, teeny amounts of these chemicals. They stay in your system. The hormones stay in your system. They stay forever. The antibiotics stay in your system. You know why we are getting the number of these ADHD patients increased every year from 7.8% in 2003 to 18% in 2016? Are we doing something wrong? Are we going to drug every kid out there with this amphetamines? Or is this a conspiracy of the drug companies to drug these kids? We all have to look at it. This is a serious matter. I think we need to really seriously. If I had a kid with ADHD, I will certainly look at many different aspects before I even go to that putting the kid on the drug, because that's not the way to help this process. So again, we're going to take a short break here, and I can have a few sips of water because as you know, I'm using a lot of my saliva here. So I'm going to revive my saliva and we come back with the discussion on ADHD.
If you're suffering with diabetes, heart disease, hormonal issues, digestive issues, and other chronic health issues, we offer comprehensive Ayurvedic and naturopathic treatments to reverse your diseases. Call us at 425-453-8022 for more information.
So, there is an interesting new concept. I love the new science which is emerging. And one thing which is why I love it so much, because it is validating what we have learned thousands of years ago. It's not a new to me, because in a lot of Ayurvedic teachings, this has been told. There is a new concept which is, a lot of books has been published and a lot of scientific paper has been published. It's called neuroplasticity. What that means, the brain can adapt to different functions. There is a disease called lazy eye syndrome. If you don't catch early, people can get blind in that eye. So, unfortunately, if the other eye get hit, which is blind, and the good eye get hit later on in life, the body says, oh, I had a good eye there. I can put that on. And it turns it on. So isn't that amazing? You're blind. You can't see it in that eye. But something hit with that eye, the other eye turn on. And so you can see that the body's functions are amazing. What we know about the body is too little. What we don't know is so much. And this concept of neuroplasticity now we're using in patients with the stroke patients and, all those kind of stuff, which there is a brain injuries and traumatic brain injuries. We are using these concepts where we're retraining the system and creating. Another thing is epigenetics. This is a new science again. Epi mean before the genes can be changed, and it's the environment again. So there is a very famous doctor, Dr. Bissell, and she has a remarkable done in the field of cancer. And that was very fascinating to me, the study she published. She took a cancer cell and started changing the environment of cancer cell. She's changed the oxygenation of it. She changed the sugar part of it. She changed the nutrient part of it. And after changing that cancer cell turned into a normal cell, normal healthy cell. That is wonderful. That means everything can be changed, but we need a persistence. Like, if you want to be athlete, are you going to be athlete in 1 week? Are you going to be athlete in 1 month? Are you going to be just watching the videos of the best athletes and going to be athlete? No way. You have to be persistent. You have to do it again and again and again. And there is a very interesting story about a Indian grammar writer whose grammar is called Panini, and he was considered the dullest student. And one day his teacher looked at his hand and said, "Oh my God, you don't have education line, so you can never learn." And he says, "Which one is the education line?" The teacher told, "If this goes from here to here, this is the education line." He went home, he carved the line with his knife. And that rest of that became a history. And still until several thousand years later, we remember his name. If nobody knows his teacher's name, but we remember his name. So I think practicing again and again. So if you have the issues with the ADHD kind of stuff, so first, don't jump on the diagnosis. Do, lot of due diligence. Maybe seek a different counselor. Just don't believe on this. Look at the child behaviors at home, what you are putting in that plate as a parent, what you're putting in his plate as a food also. If his sleep is all right, if he has issues, then go to a holistic doctor who can look at overall rather than he's just very willing to hand you a prescription of the Ritalin. Look at the food sensitivities. Look at the heavy metals. Look at the gut flora. If the gut behaviors are not good, as I said earlier, the gut is your furnace. And we have 100 trillion cells. We have 1,000 trillion bacteria. All these good, happy bugs are very good for you. Happy bugs creates happiness for you. And if you still have some issues, I'm not against using drug, but I think as you go through this process, the number of people is going to be very less. Going in the mother nature, spending some time outside, doing gardening, swimming, outdoor activities, having fun time with the family, spending time together. Music, amazingly results, wonderful results. Going into learning music, rhythms, they have an amazing effect on the people. So I think these are the factors which you can very easily do. And there are certain herbs which you can give to. Ashwagandha is one of my favorite. There's another herb called Bacopa monieri, Mucuna pruriens. Tons of other things, vitamins and supplements can be done. So, folks, if you have issue with the ADHD, you want to look at all the aspects of different factors what we talked about, and you can also come to our clinic. We'll be very happy to help you, and have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we see you next week.